Hello there, and thanks for watching another episode of News of the Pews, where you can count on unapologetic 2A advocacy. Gun rights are human rights. Oregon, a state suspiciously devoid of black people, seems to have developed an interest in East Coast Jim Crow laws. Back in 2022, Oregon voters passed a permit to purchase law, which has been tied up in state court ever since. Iowa repealed its handgun purchase permit in 2021. Then in 2023, the North Carolina legislature repealed their pistol purchase permit. Later the same year, Maryland lost its struggle to keep its own shameful handgun qualification law when it was ruled unconstitutional by the Fourth Circuit. And Hawaii lost its own struggle to make it harder for poors and minorities to exercise their God-given rights. Oblivious to these clear signals that this sort of law is a loser, the Oregon legislature is now trying to pass a new bill, HB 4145, to fix Measure 114 to save it from the court system rather than just put it out of its misery. So please call the Oregon State Legislature at 800-332-2313 and tell them to oppose HB 4145. Rather than trying to fix Measure 114, they should repeal it. But maybe, if you don't know the history of these laws, you think I'm being dramatic when I call them Jim Crow laws. See, after the Civil Rights Act made it impossible to get away with laws that explicitly discriminated by race, many states scrambled to find ways to continue to discriminate anyway. Some states, like North Carolina, passed laws giving local sheriffs the discretion to assess character. Other states simply relied on fees and permitting to make it harder for poor people to navigate the system, while producing lots of opportunities for civil servants to create friction for undesirables. This is what institutional racism actually looks like, and laws that were originally intended to make it harder for minorities to exercise their rights shockingly continue to have that effect, even if the people operating the system are no longer explicitly racist. The bottom line is, all these laws are intended to keep the lower classes in our place.
I hear that Longshanks is granted prima nocte.
But hey, it would be impossible for us to produce quality 2A propaganda without you. So if you are in a comfortable place in life, please help us stay in a comfortable place in life by contributing to our tip jars in the doobly-doo or by joining our channel. If you're not in a comfortable place in life though, remember, you don't owe us a thing. Please enjoy this 2A propaganda at the price of free 99 and continue to pray for us. As you gentlefolk know, dropping the NFA tax to $0 for everything except machine guns and DDs might create the legal situation needed to repeal the NFA altogether. Well, again, everything but machine guns and DDs anyway. But the irony of it is repealing the NFA could leave people in some states with no legal route to buy a silencer, short barrel firearm, or AOW, because a lot of states have their own laws that parallel the NFA but have exceptions for people who obtain a tax stamp. To that end, South Dakota is looking to legalize whisper pickles by removing silencers from the state's list of controlled weapons. SB 2 has passed both houses, but both houses also amended it, so they'll need to settle on a version. Still, it passed unanimously, so I think it will probably make it to the governor, and even if the governor hated the bill, and there's no indication that he does oppose it, it would be pretty foolish for him to veto a bill that obviously has the votes for an override.
Command Center, override, override!
And right here on Tatooine, the Arizona Senate Public Safety Committee passed SB 1058 out of committee for a floor vote. SB 1058 would make it unlawful for the government to maintain a registry of privately owned firearms or owners and prohibit the use of merchant category codes to identify gun dealers. Unfortunately, the penalty is only a $1,000 fine, and I think we all know about how much Wells Fargo would care about a $1,000 fine.
None at all.
Haven't we learned by now that fines against companies serve pretty much no purpose other than to protect big corpos from competition? No, whether it's dumping toxic waste, hiring illegals, or acting as the secret police for an oppressive government, mere fines can't stop corpos. The only thing that makes any sense is prison time for C-suite execs. But even if the penalty isn't as harsh as I'd like, the proposal is still a net positive, so please help us get it passed by calling 602-926-3559 to tell those crusty octogenarian public servants to pass SB 1058. Now, if you don't live in Arizona, that's no reason to keep your opinion to yourself. But be sure to pick a number between 85001 and 86556 so the nice staffer can locate some politic-critters for you to talk to. And while that fight is playing out in the Arizona legislature, it turns out the drama doesn't stop there. I recently covered a governor-attorney general slap fight over gun policy in Colorado, and now we've got the Tatooine edition. Governor Katie Hobbs publicly criticized Attorney General Chris Mays over a statement she made on gun rights to NBC affiliate 12 News while she was whinging about ICE agents.
We also have a lot of guns in Arizona. We're a gun culture in this state. And, you know, it's kind of a recipe for disaster because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification, sometimes no identification, wearing plain clothes and masks. And we have a stand your ground law that says that if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger and you're in your house or your car or on your property, that you can defend yourself with lethal force.
Don't get it twisted though, she's not wrong. Well, I mean, she's kind of wrong in how she parsed it. The stand your ground laws affirm that you have no duty to retreat before defending yourself so long as you are somewhere that you are allowed to be, and thus mostly refer to conduct in public. But because Mays referred to your home, car, or property, she probably meant castle doctrine, which is based on the English common law notion that a man's home is his castle and it is reasonable to use force against someone trying to unlawfully enter. Quibbling points aside, yes, obviously the Attorney General is correct that you can use deadly physical force against someone who is unlawfully entering your property or attacking you, even if that person turns out to be a cop. Maybe. Now, I'm not a lawyer because my parents were married, but Bad Elk versus US and Plummer versus State both seem to indicate a right to self-defense against unlawful force. Still, those cases are over 100 years old and more modern courts heavily favor the state. In practical terms, it really doesn't matter because you're not going to have any chance of prevailing against an entry team unless you know it's an entry team and have prepared in advance. In practice, you'd get folded right quick, and if you did survive, you would have a hell of an uphill battle getting the government to admit that they were wrong. And that's only in the situation where the cops were clearly acting unlawfully. And there is no way for you, the bleary-eyed homeowner, to know for certain they're acting unlawfully in that moment. What she said is true though. Surprise dynamic entries are dangerous and they expose both law enforcement and innocent people to extreme unnecessary danger. They should be avoided except when required for the preservation of life. We do have a lot of guns, and it is reasonable for a person to respond with violence to an unannounced forced entry, and government agents sometimes make mistakes. But the governor got her knickers in a twist and responded, "It is the responsibility of every elected official to turn down the temperature and do everything we can to be very careful with our language about ramping up the potential for violence." I have to say, again, she's not wrong, but to be honest, I don't think Mays meant to encourage violence at all. Did it sound like that to you? Let me know down there in the comments. Well, folks, round's complete on 2, but before I go, your moment of completion. I love you.
First thing we gotta do is drain the floor. So we're gonna use this. Let's go. Ooh, that was concussive. I think our water can drain now. It's definitely draining through that hole. Now we got this clogged up toilet. We got it completely full. Running over, it won't flush. Ooh! That was nasty.